It's about 104. So
this meeting is being recorded.
Thank you for letting me know that you're recording. I appreciate that a whole lot. Thank you. All right, cool. Excellent, excellent, guys. So welcome to the Leadership Equipping Workshop. This is our 4th call. It's kind of crazy how fast time flies. 2 months now into this. And I don't know when it ends. Is it 12 in? Is it 20? Or are we just going to continually be developed as leaders? I think it's the latter. We're going to continually be developed as leaders, and that's really exciting. And I enjoy doing this. So hopefully you enjoy being a part of it. We're probably going to slide to Mondays. That seemed to be the most popular option in the summer. And so more news to come on that. It's probably going to look like Mondays, and it's probably going to look like noonish. And hopefully that excites some people, and maybe we'll get that much more participation. The thing is, I'll never satisfy everybody, but we do record these, and it's important that we do because we're building to something. So yeah, we're gonna rock and roll here. Leadership Equipment Workshop, 6/3/2022. Can't believe it's June. Here we go, guys. All right, so next slide, please. So we're doing with the end in mind. Let's keep that in mind. We're doing with the end in mind. So you have to kind of know where you're heading. You have to know the conclusion of the story. We're doing with the end in mind. And you've seen this graph. It's very familiar to you. The first group is a leader on top, a bunch of followers just down below. And that's an old model. It's 83%. The 83% that says, hey, we need leadership development at all levels, at all layers, but we're failing to do any of that, right? We know it, but we're doing nothing about it. That's an old model. The next model is going to be kind of where we've been at, right? We have our managers, assistant managers, so on and so forth, leads. We're layering in the help, but it's still 83% because we're not at all levels. Gladly, though, we are heading right into being the 5%, and that is leadership at all levels of the organization. And that is where most companies aren't. That's where we're at. And we have to have a high bias towards doing. It's the doing that gets us to a point in which we're staying in that 5%. And that's really important, right? Otherwise, I'm just giving you guys a bunch of information. You are somewhat passively observing that information and we're doing nothing with it. We are then in the 83% thinking we're in the 5%, which is never a good thing. So next slide, please. So as we talk about doing, there's the tool belt right there, guys. Real quick, what did you put into action from the last call? Because if we're just getting information and doing nothing with it, well, we're all wasting our time here, right? I'm wasting your time, you're wasting mine. We can tell some jokes, it's fun and everything else, but the reality is your time is precious, and I know that. So what are you putting into action, and what did you put into action from your last call? And just feel free to unmute yourself and let's have conversation around that. Don't be shy.
I wasn't in the last call, but I did know that Shelby has started doing the closing report card and the opening report card, and coming in today, and Josh was openly talking to me about the score, like how it was when he opened and then his score when he closed, and we talked through it. And I'm really excited to fully put that into action, like seeing that day to day and seeing how it improves the closes and even the opens.
That's awesome. And welcome back, Stephanie. I know you've been welcomed back, but very excited to have you back in the Sky Zone Picture Innovative Heights Network. And 3 days in, you're on a call, and you're posting to improve 2022 cleaning of ground. So way to go. Winning. It's good stuff. Awesome. Some things I put in the chat, guys. We talked about coaching the team lead expectations. Is everybody there? Steps to accountability. And that's just to name a few things. We've talked about a lot. Doesn't have to be from the last call. But you need to be doing something with the information you're getting, right? Even if you're not doing it awesomely, you're not doing great with it, but you need to be taking some practice swings, right? You're at bat, you're taking some swings. You're not going to hit a home run every time, but you are taking some practice swings. So as far as what did you put into action from the last call or the call prior, what are you guys doing, or what have you been doing maybe for a couple calls now and you're seeing results? Feel free to unmute yourself.
I can't speak for Canton because this is my first day back in Canton. But everything that you said, closing report card. I just got done with that. Coaching the team, lead expectations, steps to accountability, all that. We'll definitely be working on that in Canton. I know in Shelby when I was there, we worked on team lead expectations and as well as team accountability. And since we started, taking steps for accountability, our Saturdays and Sundays were going a lot smoother than they were. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, you can't speak to Canton, but days in, you'll be able to, right? Because you're going to own it just the same, and you're going to do great things there. And the team is blessed to have you back. And yeah, I'm excited to see how much further Canton can go. And you guys have already done a lot. Kimmy, Amelia, Patrick, and the team. But having Cody back in the park is going to be a big deal. So awesome. All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like Shelby has done a more of a better job with cross training over the last couple of weeks / months, especially with the court monitors, having them not just do courts, but also teach them how to do like parties. We had a girl named Paris. She's now on parties. She's doing a phenomenal job. Evelyn's been doing parties, but for like at least her first year at Sky Zone, she's just been majority courts, and now we're getting away from just you're doing one position for months. How about we start training people in other different positions, not just courts? It just helps us with scheduling and all around. It's more beneficial.
Awesome. Awesome. So continuous improvement, training development. You guys are
working.
working.
My face. I'm not facial like there. I see him here.
Hey, Quentin. Hey, Quentin.
That way I can still bounce around.
Hey, Quentin. Can you hear us?
Sorry.
No need to apologize. Were you going to share something, or you just got you're unmuted? There we go. All right. See, Fort Lauderdale just popped up on there. Okay. FTL. Quentin, you're still unmuted. Were you going to say something?
I missed the question. Sorry, I was bouncing around. I was up at the tills. Is it just what we learned from the last call?
Or even the call before that. Yeah, I just saw you unmuted, and no apology needed. Yeah, if you have anything to share, anything you took from the last call, you've put into use, seen some results. Yeah, whatever you want to share.
I kind of heard a little bit of what the last person who spoke said as far as like cross training all staff. So essentially the idea is you want to push everybody up. So if they're more cross trained, essentially they have more skill sets to be able to stretch out, and you'd be able to fill in better, gaps a lot better wherever you might have them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And inherently that's in the lead expectations too. I know you're talking about just all positions, right? A court monitor that learns how to sales associate and knows how to do fuel zone. But even as leads, reducing the blindness from one area of the business to the other, a lead to be really good at what they do, or really actually to be at standard, really has to have proficiency and competency in all areas of the business to actually be a lead. So awesome, man. Appreciate that. Anybody ever call you Q?
Most definitely.
All right. Do you mind if I call you Q going forward?
That's all good with me.
All good, man. Thank you. I appreciate the share.
No problem.
All right, guys. Next up, ways to grow. Real quick, real simple. Be vulnerable, be real. It happens in your real life. Does the transformation as a leader or just in general. Take down that I know that filter. Fresh eyes, fresh ears. You've heard it 50 times, but the time that you hear it again, something will go off. I can tell you that much. Things change. And so you may have heard it a dozen times. The 13th time, something will go off, and I think change will occur. Actively engaged, just be, you can be passively observing, and that's one way to go about this, but you will not make the kind of gains. You won't see the transformation that you're looking for unless you actually engage. And so when I pick you, I am picking you. I'm not picking on you. So just want to be clear on that. And then reaching out. Hey, I'm available, guys. We'll have a virtual cup of coffee, but if I'm around you, if I'm in front of you, would love to connect with you. Let's have a cup of coffee. Let's talk more business and more leadership development, and in life in general. So I'm available for you to reach out to. All right, guys, next up, objectives for today. Here we go. And the first objective is finding the heart of motivation. Next thing that we're going to look for, guys, is we're going to coach to standards. We're going to coach to win. It's not all about winning. It is how you play, but it's also nice when you can win. There's nothing wrong with that. And then last but not least, as always, give you something you can use today, because again, it's all about doing, but doing with some measure of direction and a plan of attack. That's really where it counts. All right, guys, we're going to go right into this right here. 3 subjects, guys. This is one of the screening questions I had for you guys about 2 weeks ago now. Pick 3 subjects that you regard as a need for yourself. You can see, by and large, motivating a team was number 1. Motivating a team. Now, with that, I think we can slice and dice that a couple different ways. I think it's in part, yes, motivating a team, meaning I'm trying to motivate someone to do a better job from what they're already doing. We're getting higher quality out of them. I want to see them do it faster, more accurately, overall better. There's that side of motivation. And we have all sorts of extrinsic, intrinsic motivators. We could talk about that all day to motivate them in that area. But I also think if we're honest, we're actually just not trying to say, hey, how do we get them to do the job better? In some cases, we're asking this question of, how do I get them to do the job? And that's a whole other thing, right? How do I get them to show up to the job? And so that inherently is a challenge. I mean, if I were to ask for a show of hands, how many are you going to have a call off today? Yes, it's a Friday. There's a good chance you're going to have a call off. How many are going to have no call, no shows? We're going to have some of that too, right? Over the weekend. And we hate to admit it, but it's reality. And so there's 2 ways we can slice this, at least right now. Motivating a team, Canton already has one. There you go. Wham, bam, SummerSlam. And it's not something we celebrate or get excited about, but it's reality. And we're living in reality, right? This is where we're at. And so motivating a team, 2 ways we can go about it. How do you get them to do better work? And then how do you get them to do the work? And those are 2 totally different things, but they have a common thread. All right, so next screen, please. I'm going to ask this question of you. What motivates you? What motivates you? Something motivates you. You want to know how to motivate others. Clearly, you should know what motivates you. And we'll say for work, right? So if I were to ask that question, and I am, we would get everything from, I have a mortgage, I have a car note, I like to do things on the weekends. I like to do things during the week. I want to be able to pay for things, a paycheck, right? There's a number of things that motivate you. And if it weren't the Sky Zone question of why you come to work and what motivates you as a leader, I can ask you what motivates you in your general life. What are you interested in? What motivates you? And you would have a number of things I'm sure you could talk to. And so that's a question we have to be able to answer. What motivates you? So real quick, with that question, just 2 people. What motivates you at work? 2 people.
For me personally, the thing that motivates me is at one point I was a team member, and I hated when my manager just told me what to do or, said, okay, it's not that difficult. So I always make sure that I'm out with the team helping them out, doing whatever I can, because I remember being a team member and I'm not gonna name names, but some team members would some managers would just sit in the office, so.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. You're trying to model something that maybe was absent for you that you want to make available to others. That's awesome. Way to go.
I think
Anyone else? Go ahead, Kim.
I think what motivates me is watching the team members do their improve on what they're learning, and I like motivating them to do that. So watching them grow as team members is what really motivates me. So
that's awesome and great to hear you, Kimmy. Awesome. Very cool. So yeah, what motivates you? Yay again. What motivates you? Guys, that's a huge question there, because what motivates you, yes, our 15-year-old, 16-year-old team members, 15-year-olds aren't even necessarily driving. They're not necessarily working for gas money, but they're probably working to get that car down the road. They're not just coming here because they have nothing better to do. Something motivates them. And yet that's a big question. That's something we're trying to solve. What motivates them? What motivates you? I think of things that motivate me. This call, for instance, I'm looking to be a part of an organization where I have a say in us being able to have leaders that are developed with a sense of integrity and a commitment to doing great things. And that's just in part. And so that drives me to put together these presentations. They're not filled with glitz and glamour. They're not the most amazing presentations by any means, but I hope it's good content. And so that motivates me. Some years ago, I was motivated to want to be able to run with my grandchildren. And so for that to happen, I have to have a certain lifestyle in front of me to do that. Some are motivated to go to the gym because they see a version of themselves they want to achieve, right? And so they're motivated. And really, if someone buys you a gym membership, but you're not internally motivated to do it, someone's wasted their money, right? And so it takes a certain measure of action, but it also takes a certain measure of vision for what you're seeking to accomplish. So that's all tied up into the motivation as we continue to unpack this guy. All right, next up, as promised, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about planes. And this is from our last call, but I believe it ties up nicely in part to what we're talking about today. And this is largely about communication, but that's all around motivation, right? So we're talking about power distance. Anyone ever heard the term power distance? Feel free to enter into the chat. Have you heard power distance before? I'm going to assume if you don't answer, you haven't. No. Thank you. Awesome. Now, this is an example out of a book. It's actually based on a true story, not a Lifetime film or anything like that. I think it's freeform now, right? It's not Lifetime. But this is based on out of a book. It's a chapter. It's like 22 pages. I'm not going to regurgitate the whole book, nor am I going to be too caught up in the facts, although there's some really neat facts. I strongly recommend this book. It's called Outliers by an author called, his name is Malcolm Gladwell. And he takes a lot of real life statistics in any set area. In this case, it's about airplanes. And then he kind of navigates it through a narrative. And so we're going to kind of talk through that narrative. I use this example a lot with risk management and for all the reasons you're going to find out. But we're going to talk largely about communication at this portion of the presentation and then build out from here. So planes are designed to stay in the air. So if we're talking about what they're motivated by, engineers that build planes, it's to keep them in the air, keep people safe, get them to their destination. First bullet point, please. There you go. Planes are designed to stay in the air. Thank you, Wade. Appreciate that. And so they're designed to stay in the air. That's what they're designed to do. And actually, when it comes down to planes, and it's not all plane crashes, but most planes crash as a result of a series of small mistakes. Next bullet point, please. Series of small mistakes in a condensed period of time that can lead to disasters. And often it's usually under less than desirable circumstances. So a series of small mistakes in a condensed period of time in, say, foggy weather with fatigued pilots, so on and so forth, right? So a series of small mistakes in a condensed period of time can lead to disasters. I like to think that's how we see risk management. Every level inspection that goes checked off but not thoroughly looked over is a series of small mistakes in a condensed period of time that can lead to disasters. And so that's sort of the risk management piece, but I'll continue from there. So communication is huge. And often when they look to plane crashes, they look at black boxes. They want to see how communication went down. They want to know at what point did the pilot know they were in trouble, what time the tower was knowing that they were in trouble as well, and what they were trying to do to course correct. So communication is huge in the cockpit there for the plane. So outliers, those who stand out from the pack, and not always for a good reason. Outliers can stand outside for all the wrong reasons. And so you have a collective whole and you have something that's outside of that whole. Everyone else is getting certain results and someone's not, right? And they're an outlier. They're either getting really great results or poor results. And so that's the outlier. And so what happened is with this particular story, and what I'm going to tell you, again, don't hold me to the facts other than I just know the story to be true based on the history of it. I believe it was back in the 80s. There was a Korean airliner that was having an innumerable amount of airplane crashes. Their reputation was being ruined by these crashes. They were flying all the same kind of aircraft that every other airliner on the planet was flying at the time, and they were crashing all the time. These planes were going down, and the training was solid. The planes were solid. Everything around planes and the upkeep of the planes supposedly was solid, and yet the planes were going down routinely. So much so that the president at the time there in Korea, he actually withdrew from actually having that particular airliner fly him around, right? Because their reputation was tarnished. They were actually being taken out of different organizations where when you have a certain level of reputation in the world of aeronautics, you're going to land in those particular organizations. They were actually being pulled out of those organizations because of their reputation and people not wanting to fly with them. And so they brought a skilled outsider to the equation. They wanted to know what was going on. We have all the same Boeings that these other airliners are flying with, but our planes are landing into the side of mountains, and people are not getting to where they're supposed to safely. We're losing people left and right, and people are going to stop using our airliner, and rightfully so. And so the skill outsider came into the equation, and he started looking at, first and foremost, the black box, right? So next bullet point. He soon found out that communication, culture, and power distance was happening within these flights. And so he looked at all the same things. Yes, he looked at what kind of, planes were they flying? It's the same ones everybody else was flying. What kind of maintenance was being done? It was the same level of maintenance. How many training hours did they have? Did they have their 1,500 hours? They did. In some cases, they had more. And yet he looked at their communication. He found very quickly he needed to get ahead of what kind of communication was happening in said planes to bring course correction to get people to where they're going safely. And so the communication piece was he found out that, well, he knew this, that all airplanes fly with one level of communication, and that is through the English language. And so he brought them through training to really hone in on the English language, because everywhere you fly in the world uses the same language, whether you're going into New York or London or anywhere else, Saudi Arabia, you're going to use that same language, and it's English. And so he improved their English. He brought them through, and from what I gathered, based on the chapter I read, everybody went through with flying colors. And so he was able to kind of take that out of the equation. Everybody speaks the same language. And yet it wasn't just about the language, it was about culture. They had brought their culture into the cockpit. They had brought power distance into the cockpit. And it's going to be crazy when you think about how they operated differently than how we operate here, not just in the United States, but really at Sky Zone. And so the communication and the culture piece was front and center. What he found when he operated over the black box and pulled that black box apart and listened in on the communications, he found that the pilot and the co-pilot and the engineers and those in the flight towers, they were not communicating at the level that they needed to get the job done, quite obviously. But what he saw was they were actually interjecting their culture. And so what they had was a pilot that was the top guy. He was communicating when needed, but often he wouldn't. And the guy right below, who was maybe in front of the instruments and they were there to man those instruments, they were, instead of saying, hey, we're flying too low. Hey, it's a little too foggy. Hey, it's not the best of conditions. We should trust our instruments. They were really inferring to the head pilot what needed to happen, what changes needed to occur, instead of just outright saying, hey, we're going to hit that mountain. Now that just kind of like, I don't know about you, but that's like, if I'm flying, my job is to get somewhere safe. I'm going to scream from the top of my lungs, hey, we're going to end up in the side of that mountain. But the culture was so powerful, and the distance, when we talk power distance, the distance between the pilot and the co-pilot was so great that the co-pilots would, instead of actually taking on a sphere of influence or a sphere of authority, and they had authority, you would think, they actually just found themselves sort of like inferring, nudging, kind of pressing, but not really pushing things to change. And when you're that high up in the air traveling at 600 miles per hour, you can't afford to take your time with communicating whether you're going to go into the side of the mountain. You have to just say it, hey, we're going to be into the side of the mountain here real soon, guys. And so he saw that there was distance, and there was, and that power distance was great. Now, what he did was he brought him through training. He did things like taking the pilot out of being the head pilot. He actually took the names away of the positions. It was no longer pilot and co-pilot. It was Jack and John. Because he found that if Jack would speak to John and John to Jack, It was less about, oh, he's the pilot, I'm the co-pilot, I don't have a say. Because there was such distance. And it's crazy to think about, but that was something that was ingrained in the culture. So much so he actually would put the second in command as the head pilot. And so that when the actual pilot would sit in standby mode, he was the most skilled, but he also had no problem calling things out when he saw it. Why? Because when you're that high up in the air going 600 miles per hour with 200 people on board, communication's critical and you need to move with speed and accuracy. And so he changed the power distance. He changed the dynamics. And really, he changed the culture. And what did that bring them to? It brought them to radical change. Next bullet point. Radical change from an outsider coaching change. And so whether it's an auditor coming in or an RBA or just a guest, they're coming into our parks and they're seeing us how we really are. They're seeing it and they're saying it on the SMG, the Google reviews, or right up from an RBA. That's an outsider looking in. I'm coming into your park. Maybe I've never been to your park. Maybe it's a one-off visit. I'm going to Murfreesboro for the first time next week. That's exciting. I'm probably going to have some things I notice. I'm going to notice a lot of great things because they run a great park. But I'm also going to have some things I notice. I'm an outsider with knowledge coming into a different scenario, different situation. And so we need to respect that. We need to see that for what it is. And so power distance is a real thing. Now here, also, I will say, in that culture, they're a receiver culture. And so when we talk about communication, receiving is important. But in our culture, we do a lot of sending. And we put all the onus on someone who is packaging and sending off communication, right? I'm going to say some things. It all falls on me as the one communicating. Even right now, if I say something and it doesn't make sense, it really kind of falls on me. However, in that culture, they're more receiver oriented, which is really nice and poetic. Other than when you're 600, you're going 600 miles per hour with 200 people on board and you're about to fly into the side of the mountain. You can't rely on that. And so he had to change certain dynamics around who is actually saying what and who is receiving what. And it brought radical change. Now I bring this up because power distance exists, but it doesn't exist in the same way in our culture here at Sky Zone. When you're a GM or you're an AM or a lead, we have some power distance, but it's a lot closer than any of us know it to be. The reality is, here in America and with Sky Zone in general, we talk about things all day long and there's very little power distance. And actually that creates blurriness. So we talked about spheres of influence, super important. Spheres of authority, very important. Next slide, please. And so the power distance piece is real. And so how do we unpack that? What's a great thing for power distance and understanding how to work with someone who you're very close to? Coaching right there built in allows you to come up alongside someone, like Cody said at the top of the discussion, come up alongside them, mirror what you want to see in them because it's what you've always wanted. Coaching is a great way to use power distance or the lack thereof to our advantage. And it's a great communication piece, guys. So coaching and having our walls down so we can coach and coach well. So just a reminder, guys, coaching requires 5 things. I'll hit these things really quick. And it's these things: give the why, play detective, provide feedback, set goals, support, and follow up. I would hope that if not from the last call, but after this call, you'll do more coaching in your parks. It's how we improve. We coach, we coach, we coach. Next slide, please. So I'll ask you, what are you coaching to? I mean, what are you coaching to? We're coaching to something. We're going somewhere. Planes are in the air going to a destination and they're trying to get there safely. There's a goal in mind. Just the same, what are you coaching to? And I'm not asking you to answer that today or even right now, but think about it. What are you coaching to? Are you coaching to 18 birthday parties on a Saturday going extremely well? You're coaching to something. Are you coaching to a 0 incident day that you can prevent? Other preventable injuries that we'll have? Hopefully you're coaching to that, right? So what are you coaching to? And you may find that what you're coaching to is tied right back to how to motivate your team. Just saying. Next slide, please. All right, so I went to an archery. Anybody shoot arrows? Anybody? Feel free to add.
To.
You used to, Alexis. Awesome. I can see you. You're right there. Compound bow or what kind of bow?
I don't know. We had an archery club at school, so I was a part of that, but it was fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Excellent. That's awesome. And I'll back up a bit because I think I missed a part of the plane story. That particular airliner became highly respectable, actually won awards. It took a couple of decades worth of just consistency in driving that change through the organization, but they ended up coming out the other way, and they're actually one of the most highly respectable airliners in the world, from what I gather, at least at the time of that writing. So it's amazing to see the radical change that came just by being consistent and staying on top of standards and opening up the lines of communication. So I just wanted to make sure I said that. But with archery, I'm a novice. My son got a bow for Christmas. One of my sons did. And my nephew, though, he's pretty experienced. He does archery routinely. Now, maybe it was just the place I was at, but I went there for a birthday party recently, the place that he does archery, my nephew, that is. And the one thing I think of when I go to a place like that is you're trying to hit the target, right? Be it darts, shooting a gun, throwing, shooting arrows. You're trying to hit a target, and yet what was noticeably missing right off the get-go was a target. There weren't targets. Now, was that your experience, Alexis?
No, we had targets at our place.
Yeah. So, and again, there were targets eventually, but as they were showing them how to shoot the arrows, how to do it safely, how to work their form, it was less about ready, aim, fire, but it was ready, aim. Go ahead and hit the slide. Ready, aim, form. And so they didn't want them caught up in trying to hit a target, because even like, I don't care, a novice can swing the bat long enough and finally hit a home run, right? But yet it's those that are experienced and they work their craft on a routine basis, and they know how to best situate themselves between the bow and the arrow. They get it to the target, but they didn't want them focused at such a high level of hitting that target. Instead, they wanted them to focus on how to do it right, how to actually aim for the wall first before hitting the ceiling. And there was some arrows that were hitting the drop ceiling tiles at this upper room archery place I was at. Eventually, we worked our way to targets, but in the beginning, it was just a black wall, and they were just working form. And so it's ready, aim, form. And guys, we need to have a goal, yes, but part of coaching is you're working a form. You're growing in your area of influence, and you're coaching every day. Yes, you're coaching to something, but in the day, you're coaching, and you're working form. No different than someone who's shooting arrows. Listen, I can give you guys arrows for your quiver. I can keep giving you arrows. I can keep giving you things, tools. But the reality is, it's the doing that keeps us in the 5%. It's the doing that made change happen with that plane, that airplane company, the airliner in Korea. It's the doing that brings about the change, right? So next slide, please. So I would argue that the thing that we're coaching to is standards. We're coaching to standards, guys. We're coaching to the standards. I'm coaching on a Saturday to 18 birthday parties going to standards. I'm coaching my court monitors from day one to what? Know the standards. If you coach to standards, you're not going to go wrong. If you coach to standards, those who are doing great things in the organization will feel really good about themselves. And those that aren't, and they're choosing not to, they won't last for very long, and they shouldn't. Because we should coach up with a high bias towards that, or coach out. But we're coaching to standards. And if we do that, guys, consistency will win out. We'll see great things happen at the park level. I tell you that. So when we coach to standards, next slide, please. I've started doing this at some of the parks, or I've actually asked all of you guys to do this particular thing, lead expectations. Part of that's coaching to standards. I asked all of you to take stock, whether you have 8 leads, 2 leads, 12 leads, doesn't matter. They have to be to standards. And so when we look to this, and I'll just take 2 of you, because I'd love to hear you guys, who has actually coached to standards with their leads? Coached them up or coached them out, but you're coaching to those standards for lead expectations. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Well, I can speak for Murfreesboro. Just what I've seen since, I believe it was the second call where we first talked about the lead expectations. I've seen a tremendous improvement in all of our team leads, and I feel like after that call we had, we did do a team lead meeting and kind of just broke every improvement since and we're continuing to do so as we go. So.
Awesome. Thank you. No, it's amazing. Tremendous. I'll take tremendous all day long. Thank you. I appreciate that. There's proof in doing this. We have to have a high bias towards doing, not just doing in distress, not running around with our heads cut off, but we're doing with a purpose and a sense of trying to get somewhere, right? So we're doing. And this was one thing that was asked, hey, let's draw the line with lead expectations. If we have our team looking up at those leads, that's what I want to be. Not all do, but most do, right? And the standards have been lowered and we've allowed it. Guarantee you, you're going to reproduce that when they do make lead. They will meet that expectation because that's the expectations we've allowed, right? So there you go, lead expectations. Thank you, appreciate that. Next up. So part of just really lead expectations, guys, we're training their eyes to see what you see. Because leadership is, well, it's reproduction. That's what it is, guys. You're building more of you in the organization, and that's really important. Yeah, doing a proper orientation video binder sets the standards on day one. Thank you, Wade. That is absolutely true. I hope you guys are doing that. Not just I hope, we need to. Day one is where it starts, guys. As we talk about building leaders from the ground level day one, guess what happens on day one? Proper orientation. And so that's right there. We're showing them the standards. This is the kind of organization we are. This is what we want to invite you into. And it is an invitation. There's a lot of options up and down the road. We're going to coach them up or we'll coach them out. But we'll always have a high bias towards coaching up. And so we need to train their eyes to see what you see. So it's a busy Saturday. You're a GM. I hope you're pulling your AM aside and saying, let's pull away. Let's look out at the park and what it looks like right this very moment. Because in this 2 minutes we're watching, this is your SMG. In this 2 minutes that we're watching, it's your Google review that the world's going to see. The world's going to see it. And it's just reality. And so train their eyes to see what you see, because once they do, they'll do as you do. I remember this commercial from some years ago when I was in radio TV classes in college and in high school. I saw this, I think, twice on over. It was in the UK. I think they did it in America as well, here in the US. But this particular commercial, it had this emotional appeal to it. And one of the things it showed was a little girl following mom around the house. And mom is doing laundry and the little girl's doing the same. And ultimately it culminates to, yeah, this little girl's following mom all the way around the house. And maybe you know exactly, you've seen this commercial. I don't know. Maybe it did play in the States. But I know it was playing in, I think it was Europe at the time. And it had a high emotional impact. And what it showed was the little girl by the end was doing as mom does. And don't you know, by the end, little girl was smoking like mom was smoking in the actual commercial. It was crazy. And it was like, wow, because it was like the last thing you saw was little girl does as mom does. In a way, that's the same thing that we have in our parks. They're going to do as you do. That's why it was important that Cody, he saw a gap. He saw something that was missing with those before him. And he said to himself, that's not going to be like that when I lead. And so he's doing something about it. And he has been doing something about it. So kudos to him. And so again, train their eyes to see what you see, because leadership is reproduction. If you walk past a fallen standard, all eyes are on you. That does become the new standard. So don't walk past it. Next slide, please. So I'm going to ask again, what motivates your team? What motivates your team? That's a big ask. What motivates them? They're on a journey. We're on a journey together. We're motivating them, right? And so that's a big question. What motivates your team? Answer to the silhouette there. Who knows what that silhouette represents? What is that? Anybody?
The Wizard of Oz.
We're off to see the Wizard, the Wonder. Yes, exactly. So there you go. So that's the Wizard of Oz. More on that in a moment. So what motivates your team? That's the answer. That's the question that everybody wants an answer to. And yet I think it's profoundly simple. It just takes a matter of doing. And I don't want to play it down. I'm not trying to get you to motivate your team to show up to the job. The reality is not a single one of us are willing, nor should we go knock on their doors because they have failed to come to their job. It's not your job to do that. It never will be. Shouldn't be, right? And so just the same though, what motivates your team when they're within the four walls of our business? Next slide, please. So I asked this question on Saturday, 2 parks answered. I know it was a Memorial Day weekend, but it's a Saturday nonetheless. We're open for business. 2 teams answered the question, does your team know when you're winning and how? And it wasn't a right or wrong necessarily. It was just a question I posed. On Monday, someone came through, a 3rd park did. Thank you so much for that. And then on Tuesday, I think I pressed a little harder on the GM call and I got a 4th. But there was 5 parks that didn't answer. And I'm not going to call you out here. That's not my intention. But I do think it's very telling. 2 parks answered initially, a 3rd on Monday, a 4th when asked again, answered it on Tuesday. This is a really important question. Does your team know when you're winning and how? This may be what unpacks the reality behind motivating your team. If you can answer this question quickly, I bet you're not only winning, but your team's pretty motivated. Just saying. If you can't answer this very well, well, that may be part of the problem. So does your team know when you're winning and how? Anybody want to take a shot at this particular question? Maybe you've already answered it. You want to expound on that, or maybe you didn't answer that before, but you want to answer it now. Does your team know when you're winning and how do they know? Anyone?
I can go. Oh. Go ahead.
Got it, Q.
This is only
All right.
coming from, oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go? Go for it.
Go ahead. I've muted mine.
You'll get yours.
This is only coming from another conversation today, Josh, and I had a lot of conversations. As I was printing out the point A of SMG, where I'm like, this is where we're at with goals getting ready to set, Josh had mentioned something along the lines of, well, since you left, let me rephrase that. When you were here, those were getting posted in that, that drove the team. And I was like,
yep,
that's all part of the communication of everything. And if they're not seeing the point A, like we can't get to point B, we can't get to that winning point. They've got to see where we are. They've got to be coached from that point. I think that's what you're asking there. But that I thought of that immediately when you asked that. I'm like, I'm still brand new here, but I definitely just seeing the point A, giving them the goals for it, and going from there.
Absolutely. Few things. You're not new, brand new at least. You're new-ish. Let's be real, right? New-ish. And you're absolutely right. Point A is important. That was actually in our foundations call, and we're going to expand on the point A and where you're at today. And that's super important. Being real with the results, knowing what great looks like, knowing what a bad day looks like. There's very simple things that we have at our disposal, like a really good sky huddle. Like we send those out in the WhatsApp, but are we having amazing sky huddles where we're setting vision for the day? We're having an incredible 18 birthday parties today, guys. Here's some of the opportunities that we are going to be met by and some of the things that we have to overcome in, right? And so you're setting vision for the day. You're having that sky huddle or posting the SMG results. And not to shame anybody, but it's to be real as to where you're at. Because we're heading somewhere. We're going somewhere. And we have to know that, right? So, Q, what were you going to say?
So usually I feel like my team's winning when I'm able to step back and they're all confident to be able to answer all questions and not need to rely on someone else and be able to step up and address whatever comes to them. Oftentimes when you put people in certain situations, they like to depend on others for everything, or they'll be like, I don't know, which is all good and fine because they're going to actually go try to find those answers that may need to get answered. But it'd be better off looking for everyone if they're able to address it whenever it comes right to them, because that means they're fully trained and understand what's going on. And it looks like the operation's running just a lot more smoothly. So we try to make a lot of points coachable, although it may be tedious at times, but it's better right then and there to walk them through the process, even if it slows up whatever's going on at that counter, to walk them through so they understand how to address those situations for next time. And then you should step back and not have your hand so heavily involved in whatever the situation may be. All right, we just went over this. Go ahead and step up and you try to take care of it this time. And it seems to be a lot more in depth in their understanding and their growth potential if they're able to start doing that on a recurring basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Other things, I guess, is I can kind of back off of what they were saying is people don't like to be told what to do all the time. So I tell them often, if they don't like to hear me say what needs to be done, then if they know what needs to be done, go ahead and address it. And then from there, that's when we do our walk around, and then we'd be like, hey, this, and this might need to get touched up. Let's go ahead and get that knocked out. And then we get rocking and rolling.
Yeah. I like the rocking and rolling. I say that quite a bit. So appreciate that, Q. Thank you. Awesome. You know, you said some really important things there. You know, I remember early in my GM career, one of my key learnings, and it happened pretty early on, was that when I stepped away for a vacation, I was told by the person above my head at the time, I had asked how, you know, I was really nervous. I was kind of early in the GM game. And I remember stepping away for a vacation, as we all do, right? You gotta have an opportunity to kind of get some R&R going on. And I remember coming back into the fold, coming off my vacation. I asked the person above my head, I said, did they have to reach out to you a whole lot? And my boss said, well, no, not at all, Lance. They didn't reach out to me really. No, they didn't reach out to me at all. And the park seemed like it was running great. They were having good numbers. Injuries were down, et cetera, et cetera. And for a moment, I was like, oh, they didn't reach out to you at all? You know, I was almost like kind of worried. Like it was like this badge of honor or something to like, they didn't reach out to me either. You know, they didn't bug me on my vacation and they didn't bug you. But actually, that was a vote of confidence. It was actually, no, you're doing the right things because you're empowering them, you're educating them, and you're setting them off to do those good things. You're creating an environment that they can win in, and they know what it looks like to win. And so there's an empowerment piece there. And yeah, that's one way you can know you're winning. And so that was sort of a key learning early on, was like, it's not always great to be wanted in that regard. You know, I don't view it that way, and I haven't for many years. I want to set people up for success. I want to give what I've received so you can be better. Absolutely. I'm not looking to protect anything. So the reality is I'm trying to give you what I have, vice versa. And that's what you should be doing as well. And that's exactly what you're doing, Q. So great job. Keep at it, man. Very good. All right. So does your team know when you're winning? Are you four-wall strong? Now, this is new language for some. I'm doing this in some parks. I'm only going to spend like 2 seconds on this, but I want to reference, are you four-wall strong was an early expression that Bron said to me when I first came back into the fold of Sky Zone, and I have since borrowed it. I guess I've hijacked it, but we're all, you know, in the same group. Four-wall strong to me is safe, clean, and fun. What we can control within the four walls of our business, are you safe? Are you clean? Are you fun? And so we're coaching to something. We're leading to something. And yes, we're motivating our team to the end game, which is to be safe, clean, and fun. Let's just be honest. And so we have certain things in place to ensure that we're safe, clean, and fun. And yeah, we have things like audits. Guess what? An audit should not be the thing that gets us to the point of being safe, clean, and fun. We're safe, clean, and fun because it's the right thing to do. We're safe, clean, and fun because, well, the business runs a lot better and people keep coming back when we're safe, clean, and fun. And then when we do an audit, we don't have to wipe the sweat from our brow. We're ready to go. Why? Because we're operating with total integrity. We have all sorts of systems from limbo to the SMG to, right? We have so many indicators as to whether our parks are fun, whether they're clean, and whether they're safe. We just need to mine those things, guys. We have the tools to get the job done. But again, we have to have a high bias towards doing. Doing is where it's at, right? So are you four-wall strong? That should be something you're asking yourself every single day. Can we run the best shift ever on a Tuesday? Just like we did last Wednesday, right? We got to keep those conversations going. Next up, are we there yet? Many of you aren't parents. Some of you are, but we all were kids once, and we know, hey, are we there yet? It's like the most unpopular question of parents. Very popular question if you're a young kid and you're going anywhere outside of just the grocery store down the street. Are we there yet? And any parent who's been parenting for more than a minute knows that if their answer is not yet or almost, they're going to have a question come their way minutes later, and it's going to be, are we there yet? It's just going to keep being asked. And so that's what we're doing with our teams too, guys. We're creating a destination. It's all about vision. How do you run the best shift ever? Well, I can tell you how to do that. We have all the tools. You run great sky huddles. And guess what? At the end of the night, rather than just rushing off to just kind of get the night closed up, and I get it. We all want to get on the road. I get that. But if you just pause for a moment between the last guest leaving and going over to fill out that end of day form and deploying the troops to clean, and you talk about how the day went, that's going to be proof as to how well the coaching has occurred, how well of a day we've had overall. And again, that's really are we there yet? Are we there yet? Did we have a safe day? Did we have a clean day? Was it a fun day for our guests? Guys, don't look past those little moments that we just often forget about. Have dynamic sky huddles at the top of the day and at the back end of the day. Let's talk about the results. Celebrate the victories. Do it at team member meetings. I know the team meetings that are happening where that is going on, celebration awards, all the congrats. Guys, that's culture. It's a winning culture, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with winning. The expression goes, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. But here's the thing, guys. We're going to play it right, and we're going to have fun doing it. And yeah, we're going to win. There's absolutely nothing wrong with winning. Because I can tell you right now, our competitors, they're trying to win too, right? So everybody wants to be on a winning team. Let's be honest. But we want to win. We want to win right. And we want to win with some fun. It's fun to win just the same. So are we there yet? Not quite, but we will be. So give your team the destination. We want to be clean. We want to be safe. We want to be fun. Closing report card out of 70. We want to be at a 70. When we close, we want to be a 70 when we open. There we go, right? Next slide. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. What motivates your team? Well, I don't think it's probably watching the Wizard of Oz, but I will say this. Here's the thing, guys. Wizard of Oz, anybody remember this story? They're all out for something. They're on a journey. They're trying to get to their destination. They're motivated, like I am, to run with my grandchildren. I'm going to tell you, when I first started running, the only thing that worked for me was my running shoes that cost me far too much money. When I started running, my hip hurt, my knees hurt, everything hurt. My lungs were burning. I didn't like it a lick. I hated it, actually. But the reality is I love it now. I enjoy it quite a bit. And my body doesn't always want to do it, but I'm created habits and routines, and I have a goal in mind. So I'm going to keep driving towards said goal. So that's something that motivates me, just like these calls do, to see you guys off to the races, going great, going green, doing wonderful and amazing things. So in the Wizard of Oz, guess what? They were all going for something. The lion was going for courage. The Tin Man, a heart. The Scarecrow, a brain. When they got to the end to see the Wizard of Oz, it was all smoke and mirrors, though. Did they get what they were looking for? Anybody remember the story? What happened? It's a classic, guys. It's a classic. What happened at the end of the movie?
Didn't they accept who they were, and they learned to like love who they were as a person?
In part, but the reality is, thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate you taking that one. You have no idea, Cody. I love that. That's awesome. You have some homework. Go watch The Wizard of Oz. It's a classic. Some amazing things with film happened in that particular film, but they're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, because he has He's the one with the plan. He's the one that can get you to where you want to be. But the reality is when they get there, they get little trinkets. They get little signs and symbols of what they were actually trying to accomplish. But here's the reality. The Cowardly Lion didn't actually get any kind of courage. But what he did get was through the journey, he showcased courage. So here's the reality, guys. Getting to where we want to be actually takes doing. It's all tied into the doing. Listen, when a team member is not selling a membership well, it's actually through the doing that they get to the point of doing it and getting good. It's never, you're never going to have courage without doing. You actually have to do it to actually lay hold of it. There's no way around it. So what motivates a team? It's creating a destination. And so the Cowardly Lion didn't actually get, I can't impart leadership to you. I never could. When people say, oh, they're making me feel this way. No one can make you feel anything. You have to choose to do that. You have to choose to feel that way. Sorry to say that. I'm just going to be very clear. I can't impart my leadership to you. It just doesn't work that way. What I can do is take you on a journey with me, like this call is part of that journey, and set you up in an environment to do great things. And hopefully that's what we're accomplishing here. What motivates your team? It's the same things that motivate you. You're off to see the Wizard, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It's through the journey that you're going to get courage. It's the doing. You got to do it. And that's how you get good. That's how you hit home runs. You swing the bat, you work form, you coach, and you're coached. You're teachable. The best leaders out there, they ask questions. They want to be teachable. They join calls like this, not because I'm great, but because it's one other opportunity to increase your sphere of influence, your sphere of authority. You guys are influencers. You have authority. So use it. What motivates your team? You do. You're the leader. Set the destination. Go for green. Don't walk past the fallen standard. All the things I'm telling you, I can give you the tools, but you have to do something with it. Next thing. Next slide. 5 things you can do today. Here's 5 things to do. I've seen Parks go from bottom of the barrel to top 20% in OSAT. Seemingly overnight. It didn't happen overnight. It came with lots of pain, just like it did when I started running. But I kept at it, because as I did it, I got better. As the lion took on the journey, he got courage. Through doing. You got to do it. And there you go. That's the magic. Just got to do it. So hire with honesty and with the end in mind. Start hiring with honesty. Don't just hire everybody. Hire with intention, honesty. Lend them, bring them into the conversation. How you're today going to impact what we're trying to accomplish here at Sky Zone Shelby. How you being part of this and joining up with what we're doing is going to impact Sky Zone Murfreesboro. Hire with honesty and with the end in mind. Tell them what it is. Train exhaustively. Develop continually. Hold the standards without wavering. Guys, this is the big one. Hold the standards. If you let the standards drop, we'll never get to where we want to go. You got to hold the standards without wavering. Don't let it be because I walked in your park or Wade or Bree or Michael walked in your parks or you're getting an audit. Hold the standards because it's the right thing to do, but we're having a lot more fun when we're doing it too. So hold the standards without wavering and then build with the end in mind. If you do these 5 things, I guarantee you'll be top 20%. I guarantee you that. It won't happen overnight. It never does. But a home run hitter didn't arrive at that conclusion overnight. They swung, they swung, they swung, and they worked their form. They shot arrows, right? Next slide. This was in the archery place I was in, and I thought it kind of nice for what we have here. It was written down, and I just took a picture of it, and I thought it was really, I thought it was head on. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. Otherwise, guys, it's just a dream. So you got to write it down. You got to set vision. We want a court to look this way. This is a standard court. This is a beautiful, perfect court. That's what it looks like. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. 4 wall strong. Some of my parks are doing that. There's a goal. There's a goal in mind. You got to put a date. If you don't put a date, you'll never accomplish it. I guarantee you that. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. Every bit it does. And a plan backed by action, there's the doing, becomes reality. So go into your Friday shift today working the best shift you've ever worked. Listen, I know not everyone's going to be developed into the highest level of our company. I get that. There's only so many spots. But if what we're doing here molds you in such a way that 10 years down the road and you're off doing something different somewhere else, you can look back and go, yeah, that impacted me, then I've done my job. So that's the goal. That's one of my many goals. That's what motivates me. Hopefully that motivates you. So last but not least, guys, what are you taking back with you? I know this was more of a preach than a teach. I get that. I get that. Some of these are going to be that way. Less role plays, less of all that. But I hope something landed, even if you've heard it before. So what are you taking from this call today? What are you taking back to your team? I see people writing. I appreciate that. I'll send this out to you. Dynamic sky huddles. Beginning and ending. Lead expectations. Coaching. Every day. Every day we're coaching. We're coaching to something. What are you taking from this call today?
Are you asking us to answer the question in the chat or like just out loud?
Thank you for the clarification. Sorry about that. Yeah, you can shout it out. You can put it in the chat.
Okay.
If you're a little gun shy, put it in the chat. If you want to be bold, you want to step out, you want to be transformed further as a leader, bring it. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Go.
I'll be bringing coaching. I mean, I coach all the time, but
Yep.
I'll be bringing coaching. I'll do the same thing I've been doing, and I'll try to even do it. What did it say? Exhaustively. I think it was the word. Coaching.
Exhaustively, yeah. It's a fun word.
I'll coach until I'm blue in the face. So.
And your park will be better for it. I guarantee you that. And they'll be motivated. Structure and standards has a, well, let's just say structure and standards motivates. People want structure. They do get up in the morning wanting to do a good job. And those that don't, they won't last very long. And that's never my goal, but it's the reality. It's the reality because if we walk past a fallen standard or allow fallen standards with our team, the great ones will be gone. And those that are not doing a great job will hang around and we'll have allowed it. So we got to do something about that. So coach up, coach out, hold the standards. Hold them, hold them, hold them. What else? I'm seeing them coming through.
Thank you. Keeping that end goal in mind, like the end, what did I put? Looking at the end in mind, that doesn't make sense. But the end plan is constantly in line. This is where we're going to be. This is how we're going to get there. And keeping that coaching up, just as Cody had said, keeping it going, keeping everything right, fresh in front of everybody. Don't let the standard fall.
Yeah, it's a favorite quote of mine, but for obvious reasons. It matters. Don't let the standards fall. If we just did things to a high quality of standards, we'll be fine. Like we can move a GM out from one part to the next. We can move all our GMs all around the states here. One could go somewhere else, and the reality is if we're all committed to the same standard, A, it's much easier. B, it's a lot less culture shock, and we can maintain the successes that we're trying to have, right? We're trying to obtain some successes here and some victories. So the standards are everything. They really are. High quality shifts to standard. That's the goal. That's the destination. And you will have a motivated team. Yes, you can do free pizza. You can do an awesome team meeting where you do a pizza party because you guys got somewhere with it. That's awesome. Those are all good things. There's nothing wrong with it. The PIN program, there's some amazing ways, and I can give you a whole list of them. There are also all sorts of fun things we can do. And we're a fun brand, so we should be having fun, right? And we could talk about that all day. But when we're talking about what is at the heart of it, it's structure and standards that motivates a team. Having a destination in mind, this is the kind of park we're going to be, and you're part of that solution. I'm going to tell you right now, that's retention right there. That's retention on steroids. You're not going to lose people. Proper orientations, you're going to lose some. I'll take it back. You are going to lose some. But it's going to be all right. We have one park on the call right now. I won't call them out. They've lost some people in the last week or two. And they've actually lost it for the right reasons. Because people are not adhering to the standards. And that's okay. That's okay. We're going to give them every opportunity to be successful here. Because we're creating environments that's coaching, right? I want to create an environment for you to soar in. So that's what we're doing. What else? What else?
I do want to say I am gonna bring something that actually Stephanie said. Obviously, her talk with Josh and saying and him saying that, you know, after she left, they weren't really, like, the team wasn't seeing the SMG scores and stuff. You know, I didn't realize, you know, how important that could be for them to see the scores. And then set a goal and have a goal in mind for them to reach. So I'll definitely be bringing that to Canton.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Canton gets some celebration alerts. I mean, even in this last couple of weeks, it's been brought up before. We got to have those posted. We have to have those. We got to shout it from the rooftops, guys. There's enough negative going on in the world. There's enough individuals who are going to pull us apart and pry us apart and catch us on a bad moment, a bad day. Those are realities. We get that. But we also then need to really celebrate the wins. We really do. It's important. The team needs to see it. They want to be part of a winning culture. I guarantee you that. What else? Anything else? Awesome. Well, thank you for adding to the chat, guys. If you think of anything, let me know. I know it was less of, here are some tools to use. I've given you a lot in 4 calls. There'll be more on the next call. I just want you to know, if I keep giving you things, but we're not utilizing those things, it's all in the doing. It's, you know, Dorothy actually had the way back to Oz. She always had that way back to Oz. So watch the movie, because you'll see that she always could get back, and she didn't have to take the journey to do it, to be honest with you, but she took the journey. And through that, it shaped her character. It shaped all of their character, and they were better off for it. We're doing something very similar, guys. We're off to a destination. We're going to do great things. We're going to be the best network of Sky Zones. I guarantee you that, but we have to be partial to doing, and doing with a level of intentionality. When we do that, well, we do great things. So create an environment where people can do amazing things and run amazing shifts. Cool? All right, guys, next up, next slide, please. Next call is going to be 6/13/2022. That's my dad's birthday. Big old happy birthday to my dad prematurely, but that's his birthday. It's a Monday. Topic is to be announced, to be decided rather. And yeah, I think we're going to shoot for noon Eastern Standard Time. That's 11 for others. I don't know if that works for everybody, but I'll make sure. I'll actually go back to the drawing board to see what was the most popular. 1 o'clock this time was popular, as was 12 o'clock, but we'll decide. But Mondays, when we'll have these calls going forward, at least for the summer, it'll be every other week. That call is going to come up on very quickly. It's 10 days away, and I'm traveling through a portion of that, but it will be a good call. Invite more for that call. Bring a lead on or two. I'm fine with that. The more the merrier. I'm all good, guys. Thank you so much. I know I went over my time, but I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's have a clean, safe, fun weekend. Let me know if you need anything.